December 5, 1952. London woke up to what seemed like an ordinary winter morning. The air was cold. The sky was pale. Coal fires burned inside millions of homes. Fog was nothing new to London. For centuries, the city had known fog. It rolled in from the Thames. It wrapped around bridges. It softened the outlines of buildings. But this was not just fog. It began quietly. A high-pressure weather system settled over southern England. The air stopped moving. Completely. No wind. No circulation. No escape for the smoke rising from chimneys. Post-war Britain depended on coal. Factories burned it. Power stations burned it. Homes burned it for heat. And in 1952, much of that coal was low quality, full of sulfur. That Friday morning, smoke rose as usual, but it did not rise far. It hovered, and slowly. It thickened. By afternoon, the fog had turned yellow-brown. It carried the smell of sulfur. A metallic taste settled on people's tongues. Visibility dropped. Drivers slowed. By evening, they could no longer see the road. Buses stopped running. Cars were abandoned mid-street. Pedestrians held onto walls to guide themselves. Streetlights glowed weakly, swallowed by the haze just a few feet away. Inside homes, something worse was happening. The smog seeped through cracks in doors, through window frames, under floorboards. Living rooms filled with smoke. Families sat in darkness. Coughing began. At first, it seemed like irritation, then wheezing. Then choking. Hospitals started receiving patients. Elderly people gasping for air. Children with blue lips. Men clutching their chests. Doctors were confused. It was just fog, wasn't it? But this fog was thick with sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides, and soot particles. It entered the lungs and stayed there. The body could not clear it. By the second day, London had disappeared. The skyline vanished. The River Thames became invisible. Even indoors, theaters canceled performances. Audiences could not see the stage. Through indoor haze, ambulances struggled to move. Some drivers walked ahead of vehicles carrying lanterns. The underground became the only reliable transportation. Above ground, the city stood still. At Smithfield Market, cattle suffocated. Farm animals collapsed in the streets. By Sunday, panic was growing. Pharmacies ran out of medicine. Hospitals overflowed. Nurses worked double shifts. Oxygen supplies thinned. The death toll quietly began to rise, but the government remained calm. Officials described it as a typical London fog. They did not issue warnings. They did not restrict coal burning. They underestimated it. By Monday, thousands were ill. Healthy adults, strong workers, suddenly unable to breathe. People who had survived war bombings were now defeated by air. Some went to sleep and never woke up. Death certificates listed bronchitis, heart failure, respiratory collapse. But behind those medical terms was one cause. Pollution. The smog was so thick that funerals were delayed. Gravediggers struggled in near darkness. Doctors began noticing patterns. Most victims were elderly. Many had pre-existing lung conditions, but increasingly, younger victims appeared. Post-mortem reports revealed inflamed airways, lungs blackened with soot. Scientists began measuring the air. Levels of sulfur dioxide were many times higher than normal. The high-pressure system had trapped it like a lid on a jar. London had become a gas chamber built by its own industry. For 5 days, the smog did not lift. 5 days of darkness at noon. 5 days of coughing in every home. 5 days of invisible poison. And then, on December 9th, the wind changed. Pressure system moved. Fresh air swept through the city. The fog cleared. Sunlight returned, but the damage was done. Official reports initially claimed around 4,000 deaths, but in the months that followed, More people died from complications. Modern research estimates the true number closer to 12,000. 12,000 lives, not lost in war, not lost in fire, lost in silence. The tragedy shocked scientists. Public anger grew slowly, then fiercely. How could this happen in a modern capital city? How could air itself become deadly? Investigations revealed uncomfortable truths. Britain's dependence on coal. Industrial emissions left unchecked. Urban planning that placed power stations close to residential neighborhoods, and a government slow to react. But something changed. Great Smog could not be ignored. Newspapers printed stark headlines. Doctors demanded reform. Environmental scientists gained attention. 4 years later, in 1956, Parliament passed the Clean Air Act. It restricted burning of smoky fuels in cities, encouraged smokeless alternatives, relocated power stations away from dense populations. It marked one of the first major environmental protection laws in the world. The air in London gradually improved. Smogs became less deadly, but the memory remained. The Great Smog was not dramatic like a bomb. It made no explosion. It created no single moment of chaos. It suffocated slowly. Quietly. Relentlessly. And that is what made it terrifying. You cannot fight air. You cannot outrun it. You breathe it. Every second. The victims were ordinary people. Grandmothers knitting by the fireplace. Children walking home from school. Bus drivers finishing their shifts. Shopkeepers opening stores. They trusted the air. And the air betrayed them. Today, when we speak of pollution and climate change, we often think of statistics. But in December 1952, those statistics had faces. Names. Families. The Great Smog stands as a warning. Progress without responsibility is dangerous. Energy without regulation is deadly. Silence from leadership can cost thousands of lives. Modern London shines with cleaner skies, but on certain cold mornings, when fog rolls in gently over the Thames, some still remember. For 5 days London vanished. For 5 days, breathing became a risk. For 5 days the modern world revealed its hidden danger. And from that darkness came awareness. From suffocation came reform. From tragedy came change. The Great Smog of 1952 was not just a weather event. It was a turning point, a lesson written in soot across the sky, a reminder that what we cannot see can still kill, and that the air we breathe is never something to take for granted.